In this video, I'm going to show you a complete tutorial of getting started in LEGO Fortnite. Now, this video is mainly for players who are absolutely new to the game with very little experience in sandbox survival games. So if you consider yourself an intermediate or advanced Fortnite player, you likely won't get too much from this video. We'll be covering how to create your world, the HUD, types of resources, crafting, combat, biomes, villagers, and more. The main focus of this guide is to get your crafting table to the max level, which will give you access to all the tools you'll need to survive in the world of LEGO Fortnite. Feel free to skip sections that you're already familiar with. When you first load Fortnite, you'll find LEGO Fortnite from the list of other game modes. You'll be given the option to create your world. You can choose to either create a survival or creative mode world. Survival is for those that want the authentic experience where you'll have to worry about enemies, avoid hunger, scavenge for resources. Creative is for those that want to lay back and enjoy the game without fear of death or running low on resources. This guide will cover strictly the survival mode. Now, when you create the world, you'll see a bunch of settings where you can customize the difficulty by choosing to turn off enemies, hunger, or whatever. Let's leave all of those on to get the most authentic experience. When you first load the world, there'll be a pink NPC you can talk to. Feel free to read what they say, but we'll be covering everything they tell you in the video. On the top left, you'll have a green dash gauge. This is your hunger meter, which can be filled by finding food throughout the world. The gauge at the bottom is your temperature and will change when you enter different biomes in the world or if the weather changes. You'll ideally want to stay in the gray area, as getting too hot or cold will slowly decrease your health. Getting to the darker red will put you in the burning state, and the dark blue will put you in the freezing state. The hearts indicate your health meter. The bottom left bag icon lets you know how many items you can carry in your inventory and how much you currently have. The bottom right shows you your quick inventory, which holds up to 5 items and allows you to quickly swap between weapons and items you can consume. You also have 2 ways of moving: your normal movement and sprinting. Clicking the shift key or pressing down the left analog stick for the controller will allow you to sprint for a short duration. This is indicated by the meter that pops up that will regenerate when you've exhausted it. Left clicking or using the right trigger will initiate a punch when you have your equipment set to an empty slot or a weapon. The same button will also allow you to eat food. Now that we've covered the mechanics, the first thing you want to do is begin picking up as much wood and granite on the floor and begin exploring the map. If you open the map, you'll likely notice that it's entirely covered with fog. As you move through the world, the area gets discovered and the fog is removed. For the first couple of days, you'll want to explore as much as you can until you find the desert and ice biomes, all while collecting as much wood, berries, and granite as you can. Once you have enough wood, build a campfire. This will unlock additional recipes for you. From here, create a crafting table. We're aiming to make a sword so we can kill any wolves and skeletons as we're discovering the map. For this, we'll need to craft a lumber mill, which will allow for us to turn our wood into wooden rods, which upon obtaining will unlock the common short sword. After you craft a sword and a torch, smash the crafting table so you can get back all the resources you used on it and continue exploring more of the map. Next, we'll cover fighting mobs. If you're already familiar with combat-based games, feel free to skip this part. If not, then it's important to also know how to fight. Luckily, the combat is pretty simple in LEGO Fortnite. When encountering mobs for the first time, you'll want to take a couple of swings with your sword and use the control or right button on the controller to dodge. It's best to watch what the enemy is doing so you can anticipate when you need to dodge. This will serve you extremely well throughout the game, as wolves, skeletons, and rollers share the same moveset from their stronger versions. For wolves, expect they'll attack you after every 3 swings, but always be checking to see if they're going to lunge at you sooner. Skeletons have a pretty long time frame where they raise their arm to swing at you, so dodge out of the way when you see that happen. For rollers, they'll attack you within close, mid, and far range. Their melee attacks are pretty easy to dodge once you learn their pattern. Do your best to avoid their rolling attack, as you'll take a good chunk of damage early on. If you're by a body of water, you can potentially lure them into the water for an instant kill. Keep roaming your world until you find the location of both biomes, all while fighting mobs in between. Collect plenty of drops from wolves, spiders, and rollers. Use berries and pumpkins and meat from wolves to keep your health and hunger happy. And again, collect as much wood and granite along the way. You may encounter these hostile villagers along the way. They aren't too strong, but aren't really worth our time at the moment. You'll notice you hit the desert biome when you see the sandy-like area, and the Frostland biome when you see the icy mountains in the distance. Depending on how your world was generated, this may take some time, but I recommend doing this before committing too much to one base, as it'll allow you to easily gather resources from all 3 biomes. Once you discover the 2 other biomes, find a good spot between the 2 to begin building your base. This starts by building another campfire. You'll notice that when you start collecting new items and building additional things, you'll unlock new recipes for your world. And with the wood you gather along the way, build a simple shed. Next, this is super important. This should have unlocked the bed. Beds will allow for us to mark our new respawn point. That way, if we die, we'll spawn here rather than where we first started, which will save a ton of time, especially if you traveled a long way to find this spot. Then, get close to it and assign yourself the bed. Sleeping on the bed will also slowly regenerate your health. If you see these light fairies, you can follow them and it'll lead you to a chest. Whether those items are good will vary, but early on it may be worth checking out. Next, we'll need to use the wood and granite we collected to build a couple more cover structures. This will allow for us to use the machinery when it's raining. Start by building the lumber refiner again and the grill. The grill is going to let us cook the meat we find, which will give us additional perks and boosts. Now, we'll need to hunt the rollers. While you could work towards building a shield to easily fight these mobs, I have full confidence you can defeat one of these without one. All it takes is a little patience and timing. Once you've hunted 3 of these and gained the shells from them and build 8 planks, you can upgrade your bench to unlock uncommon tools. Use the bones you obtained from killing the skeleton monsters and build yourself an uncommon axe. If you also found a 4th roller, you can work towards building a health charm to protect you. Build some torches, and then open the map and locate the nearest cave to the grassy biome as indicated in the green patches. Head in the cave and hope you find one that carries knotroot, as sometimes you'll encounter caves without any. This one, however, has plenty of marble and knotroot. We'll focus first on cutting the knotroot, and once we have roughly 30 or so, let's head back to the base before venturing further in the cave. We'll want to craft an uncommon pickaxe to also break down the marble as we're venturing deeper into the cave. Also, I had forgotten to mention, now would be a good time to craft the village square. This will establish a marker on the map for your village, as well as allow you to recruit villagers. Villagers are an amazing resource whether you're playing with friends or solo, as you can have them adventure with you to assist with finding monsters and gathering resources by giving them a tool for the right task. So, I'd recommend enlisting the help of one as soon as you're able to. The village marker should have unlocked a ladder for us as well, which will let us reach resources hanging from the ceiling. Quick tip. When you're traversing around the caves, it's pretty easy to get lost and forget where the entrance was. You can throw down a trail of torches to help light the way. After collecting roughly 2 stacks of knotroot and marble, we can now build a stone breaker, which will allow us to turn our marbles into marble slabs. If you're running low on space, go ahead and create a double shack to add extra space to build more machines. We'll also want to convert 17 of the knotroot into their rod form so we can use it to build a common short sword and save 12 for the bench upgrade. Our next goal will be to create a shield, as it'll be effective when we're hunting for sand rollers in the desert biome. However, first, we'll want to craft the spinning wheel so we can turn our cobwebs, wools, and vines into threads and cores to craft our health charm as well as future items. For this, we'll need 8 planks, 5 wooden rods, 5 wood, and 5 wolf claws, which we should have plenty of. However, if you're lacking any of these, you can chop down additional trees while you process your materials and hunt wolves throughout the grasslands. Once the spinning wheel is made, we'll go ahead and use the cobwebs we have stored to turn them into silk thread. We'll need 3 of those, 1 marble, which we obtained from the caves, and a shell from a grassland roller to make our health charm. This will give us 2 additional hearts as well as 3 defense. To equip the charm, navigate to your inventory and drag it under one of the 3 slots here. This should now make it easier for us to fight the monsters in the desert biome. Next, we'll need to take 5 vines and process them into a cord, and take 5 pieces of wood and process them into 5 planks. Use these items to create the night shield and drag it into your right hand slot. So, we have our short sword, shield, and uncommon health charm that we've just created. Now we're ready to venture to the desert biome. As you walk through the desert biome, you'll find spicy peppers scattered across. Collect as much of these as you can, preferably a full stack, as we need these later on for the Frostland biome. Our goal is to collect 12 sand claws and 6 sand shells, which we can collect from sand wolves and rollers respectively. Their attacks are the same as their grassland counterparts, but they do more damage per hit. When you encounter the sand roller, you can raise your shield when it's about to roll against you. This will cause the roller to be stunned, which will double your damage to them temporarily. This works on the grassland rollers too, but those are much easier to defeat, hence why we didn't use the resources to build a shield earlier. If you find yourself low, don't be afraid to run and heal up using the peppers you found. Also, don't be hard on yourself if you die. It can definitely be an adjustment on your first time here. If you do end up dying, you'll see a beam of light as well as a backpack icon letting you know where your stuff is. Once you've collected enough sand claws and shells, head back to the base and upgrade the crafting bench. This should unlock the rare versions of the forest axe and pickaxe. Next, we're going to need to collect amber from the desert biome. We'll be needing an uncommon pickaxe for this. I would suggest making 2 of these axes as they tend to break pretty easily. Also have at least 5 pieces of wood, as we'll need them to access higher elevation. You'll likely have already seen amber on your first adventure to the desert biome, in which they're usually located on the top of the rock structures. For some structures, you may be able to get up there with a geyser that's located nearby. However, likely chances are you'll need to build staircases all the way up. Collect as much of these as you can until your 2 pickaxes break. Once we collect a rough amber piece, it'll unlock the gem cutter. While you're mining for amber, make sure to kill any wolves and rollers you see along the way. Collect a stack of sand claws, as these will be needed to build additional machines and tools. Once both your pickaxes break and you have enough sand claws and shells, make your way back to the base and build a gem cutter machine. Take 5 rough ambers and process them into cut amber. Use 3 knotroot and process them into the rod form to build a rare forest axe. Then, build a cool-headed charm and equip it. This will prevent us from burning in the caves. While the forest axe will allow us to collect flexwood, which is obtained from chopping the cacti around the desert biome, there's another tip if you're feeling a little dangerous. You can use the brutes to your advantage. Here's how to do it. As you wander around the desert biome, you may spot one of the brutes roaming about. If you walk close enough, you could aggro it and make it break down the cacti for you. However, be very vigilant about doing this, as a misstep could result in you being sent back to the base. If done right, you can easily collect stacks of flexwood without having to do too much. Collecting flexwood will unlock the rare version of the crossbow for us, which will be incredibly useful for us to easily defeat the brutes. Once we've gathered a stack of Flexwood, we can process the Flexwood into the rod form. Then, we can build a rare pickaxe with 3 Flexwood rods and 3 sand claws. Now, this next step isn't necessary to get the bench upgraded, but will make your play experience much better. What we're going to do before going to the caves is make a loom, which will allow us to process our threads and make our fabric. Our goal here is to unlock the glider, which is a critical item to have and will make traveling around the world much easier. Once you build the loom, we'll need to make 4 wool fabric and 6 silk fabric. Each of these will require 5 of their respective items to yield 1. We can easily obtain cobwebs from nearby spiders and wool from sheep. However, for wool, we can speed up the process by collecting vines from bushes to feed the sheep. Dropping a full stack for them to eat will cause them to drop a good chunk of wool. Once you've built the glider, you can test it out by jumping from an elevated area with your stamina bar full. After jumping or falling from a cliff, you can deploy the glider, which will allow you to glide down safely to a lower elevation. This will be great for easily crossing terrain as well as moving down areas of the cave without fear of taking fall damage. Just make sure you have enough stamina, as jumping while your stamina is depleted will prevent you from deploying your glider and result in fall damage or death. Alright, so at this point we should have a cool-headed charm, a health charm, a weapon or weapons, a bunch of food, a stack of wood, and maybe a glider. One last thing we can do to prepare for the desert caves is to stock up on snowberries. These can be found scattered around the Frostland biome. You want to stay on the edge of the biome as you likely don't want to be stuck in the cold too long. With these snowberries, you can either eat them as is to gain 2 minutes of heat resistance, or obtain milk from cows to make a snowberry shake, which provides 10 minutes of heat resistance. Though you'll need to craft a juicer if you're wanting to do this. If you didn't discover a dry desert cave when exploring around the desert biome while gathering resources, go ahead and find the first one you see. If you find one that has lava flowing through it, then you'll likely have the resources needed as well. Travel through the cave and mark your progression if needed to help you navigate back to the entrance. If you didn't bring enough torches, you can create structures to act as markers for you as well. These caves will also have exploding rollers, which, when walking close enough to, will follow and eventually detonate near you. These guys will drop blast cores, which will be vital for crafting a metal smelter. We're going to need at least 15 copper bars, 5 rubies, 40 obsidian, and 40 bright quartz to upgrade the crafting table. However, if you're able to get a couple stacks of each or collect as many as you can, these will be helpful for future items you may want to build. Once you've collected enough resources, head back to the base. The next machine we'll need to build is the metal smelter. Use the metal smelter to convert the copper and bright quartz into copper bar. We'll need 15 of these for our upgrade bench, and they take a long time to process, so definitely walk away to do other stuff whenever you're waiting for them. While we're waiting for the copper bars to finish, let's go ahead and process our 25 obsidians into obsidian slabs. The last thing we'll need is a brute scale, which can be found by defeating a brute from the grassland. However, up until now, it was likely best to avoid them. Now, you can definitely defeat them by using a sword or by other means, but seeing as this is a beginner's guide, the most seamless way to take down a brute is by using the crossbow. Before hunting for one, gather enough resources to build a rare crossbow and hunt as many hens as you can. These guys will drop meat as well as feathers for us to craft arrows. We'll want to make at least 100 arrows to be comfortable enough to take down the brute. Once you've had both, wander through the grasslands until you found one. Depending on how lucky you are, this may take some time. Once you found a brute, equip the crossbow and begin shooting at it from a distance. Watch the brute to see what attack it'll do next. If it raises its head, it'll launch a ball of acid. Run to the side all while shooting arrows at it. If done correctly, you can defeat the brute with ease. Pick up the brute scale and head back to your base to upgrade your bench to the highest level. Well done on getting this far. As you can see, we've pretty much neglected our base, but you now have access to all the tools to gather resources from all biomes, so upgrading your base should be pretty easy from here. The last biome we'll be covering is the most brutal, the Frostlands. If you were able to find flour in chests throughout the world, you can use it with the spicy pepper and meat you gathered to make a couple of spicy burgers, which, similar to the snowberry shake, will give you 10 minutes of cold resistance. We'll then need to make 3 copper bars and 3 knot root rods to make an epic forest axe. We'll at least need an inner fire charm, so if you weren't able to get at least 3 blast cores from the previous run to the desert cave, I would go grab those now. This next step is optional for those with gliders, but will help with traversing back and forth from the ice biome. Collect a couple stacks of wood, use said wood to make yourself a high staircase in the direction of the ice biome. When you feel that it's high enough, jump from the staircase and glide towards the ice biome. When you're nearly out of stamina, make sure to land safely onto the ground and begin building another staircase to glide from. This will help connect your base to the biomes for easy back and forth travel. As you approach the frost biome, check to see whether or not it's day or night. If it's night, wait until it's daytime to explore this biome for your first run. With our current setup, we'll want to avoid the night, as even with a rare fire charm and cold resistance buff, we can still get cold, which will decrease your movement speed. What we'll need from this biome is frost pine to create the epic pickaxe, which can be harvested from the trees here. You'll also notice that the sheep in this biome are of different color. These types of sheep can only be found in the ice biome, and they drop heavy wool, which can be useful for crafting epic charms, so pet them whenever you can. Process the frost pine into their rod form and the obsidian into their slab form to create the epic pickaxe. pickaxe. With this, we can now mine the 3 materials found in the ice biome. When traveling around the mountains, you may encounter a green rock, which is malachite. In the caves, the 2 resources will be iron and sapphire, which will be good for the epic versions of the swords and the crossbow, as well as epic charms. While the ice caves carry the same premise as the dry desert caves, the mobs can be quite brutal, so definitely load up on food and weapons before entering one. You'll find iron hung the same way as copper and sapphire similar to ruby. And that's pretty much it. While there's a lot of other intermediate and advanced stuff not covered in this video, I hope this gave you at least an idea of how to comfortably traverse through the world. You can definitely prep more for the ice biome by taking it slow and collecting more fire charms to stack their benefits. Once you complete the village square for the grasslands, you can also begin building your desert and Frostland base, which will come with their own set of rewards and requirements. However, if you got this far, you'll definitely be able to do that on your own. If you found this video helpful, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you have other helpful tips you'd like to share, feel free to post them in the comments below. And thanks for watching.